أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من حمزه ونفخه ونفثه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. المستمعين الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Sorry, the network has disconnected again. So, but if that happens again, I am devising a second means here. So we are recording simultaneously on YouTube channel. So if it gets cut off on FB again, don't worry. I will keep on reconnecting, and we are going to have a full record on the YouTube channel. After the end of the session, we are going to get it uploaded. So we are going to start our session today from page 61. Asasul Baykuni al-Jadid fil Bahth. Okay, so we are going to uh, be discussing here for those of the classes, the Mondays and Wednesdays classes we have treated here in class, but this you can take this as a revision for your class. And for class of Sundays, so this is a new class for you, and take it as a normal class and basic class. So, and at the same time, as a preparation for those groups whose area of presentation fall under these pages. So we are going to read together, and at the same time, if there is anything we need to explain, the points that we need to clarify, Bismillah, we are going to stop for clarification, Bismillah. So we are reading from page 61 now. كانت الفلسفة طوال القرون الوسطى تقوم على أساس خطأ لا يمكن أن يؤدي إلى علم جديد، فقد اتخذت القياس المنطقي سبيلا لتأييد المذاهب والآراء. والقياس المنطقي وسيلة عقيمة في كثير من وجوهه، لأنك مضطر في البحث أن تسلم بمقدماته تسليما لا يجوز فيه الشك. فمهما أمعنت في البحث والاستنتاج فأنت محصور في حدود المقدمات التي سلمت بها بادئ البدء. فإذا أريد الإصلاح وانتشال الفلسفة من الهوية التي تردد فيها، فلا بد من ثورة علمية تحدم أسلوب البحث العتيق البالي يعني قديم البالي. لهذا نهض بيكون ووضع أساسا جديدا للبحث كان أولى خطاه الملاحظة والتجربة، وقد اشترط فيهما أن تستخدم في بطء شديد وحذر شديد، والبطء والحذر هما أبرز ما يتبع بيكون بطبعه الخاص الذي يميزه من أسلافه في العصور الوسطى والقديمة. فكثيرا ما بدأ الفلاسفة بالملاحظة، ولكن سرعان ما كانوا يفسدون هذا البدء الصحيح بالتسرع بأن يقفزوا من ملاحظة الجزئيات إلى الأحكام الكلية العامة قفزا لا يحتاطون فيه بالحذر. فقد كانت تكفيهم مجموعة قليلة من الأمثلة التي يستجدونها أو يستجمعونها بالملاحظة ليقيموا على أساسها ما شاءوا من نظريات فلسفية عامة. So we are going to basically here, from the beginning, Francis Bacon says that throughout the medieval era of philosophy, طوال القرون الوسطى المسيحية أو الفلسفية, throughout the medieval era of philosophy, which is categorized as Christian religious philosophy. Philosophy was based on a wrong foundation, and because it was based on wrong foundation, it was impossible for philosophy to evolve into a new science or into a new knowledge or discipline. So the reason why we say it is based on the wrong foundation was that it used philosophical analogy in all its study, okay, in order to support the philosophical opinion and schools. And the philosophical the and logical studies or knowledge, analysis or analogy or the system of logic is a very old system of study in all its aspects, because you are supposed to approve or to submit yourself to uh, in a blind way or by force to a proposition before you even start your 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 study or your examination. And so the logical analogy was placed in such a way that you cannot doubt it, you cannot argue with it, so you cannot say that you have an extra opinion on it. So whatever you study or whatever you do, whatever conclusion you arrived at, so you are still confined within a specific proposition and conclusion. So you cannot come out of the box. So you have to still be within the rules and regulation of the what of the logical analogy. So by this, Francis Bacon's opinion is that if we really want to revive philosophy and we want to see philosophy from the pit of death that it was leading to during the medieval era, so we have to have a scientific revolution. So that is what he called Thawratun Ilmiyatun. There must be a scientific revolution, there must be a philosophical revolution. And what is the duty? What is going to be the focus of this revolution? So this revolution will be to haddimu uslub al-bahth al-atiq al-bali. So so this revolution will demolish, will destroy all the old useless systems and foundation of philosophy. So, and it was this purpose, for this cause, for this purpose of demolition or destroying the old philosophical system that uh, made Francis Bacon to arise and suggested a new foundation for philosophy. And in its new foundation, there are two major uh, basics. There are two major focuses. Okay, the two major focuses are based on al-mulahaza and at-tajriba, observation and experiment. So these are the two basic focus and foundation of the new philosophical method of Francis Bacon. So by this, he suggested al-mulahaza and at-tajriba, but he has two conditions. He gives two conditions for achieving successful observation and experimentation. So what are the two conditions that he gives? He says, لا بد أن تكون الملاحظة والتجربة بالبطء الشديد والحذر الشديد. So there must be al-but'u and there must be al-hazru. Okay, al-but'u here, we must carry out the observation and experiment slowly. Okay, So it must be very, very slow, okay? And also بالحذر الشديد, and it has to be very, very, it has to be done very, very carefully. So these are the two conditions that Francis Bacon gives to carrying out successful observation and experimentation. So, uh, so we repeat again. So the two basic method or rule or foundations are al-mulahaza and tajriba. And for the najahul mulahaza wa tajriba, he gives the two conditions, which are al-but'u shadid and al-hizru shadid. Okay, slow, uh, very slow in observation and very careful in carrying out the experimentation. So, uh, these two methods or these two ways, the carefulness and slowliness, okay, these are the two major features that distinguish philosophy of Francis Bacon from the rest of uh, other philosophers' views and opinion. Okay, so because even though the predecessors and the medieval era of philosophy, even though they also used some kind of observation in their study, but they were not steady enough and they were not careful enough in their using of observation and experimentation, because in most of the time they skip from one step to the other. They skip from one stage to the other. So how do they skip? It's by skipping or jumping from a minor sample that they have collected from minor conclusion to a major and more generalized conclusion. And by jumping from by skipping stages of observation, so they were unable to achieve correct and substantial conclusion that they were supposed to arrive at in their study. Okay, so but for Francis Bacon, he wants people. Okay, we are reading from the last line of page 61 now. أما بيكون فيحذر الناس ويوصيهم بالأناة والصبر، فلا يبدأون في مرحلة التعميم إلا إذا جمعوا من الأمثلة الجزئية أكبر عدد مستطاع. So Francis Bacon advises people. So he warns them and advises them at the same time to be steady and patient when they are carrying out mulahaza and at-tajriba. He says that they should not proceed to generalization of conclusion until they have collected as much as they want, as much as possible number of uh, of samples of samples that they need. So after collecting as much as possible samples that they needed, now they can use those samples to what, to generalize the conclusion of their study. So by this, أراد بيكون أن يدع للعقل الإنساني خطة جديدة يسير عليها، ولكنه قبل أن يقوض الأطلال القديمة ليقيم في مكانها بناءه الجديد، عمد إلى تطهير العقول من كل ما يشوبها من تعصب وجمود. He says, فإن أردنا أن نفكر تفكيرا سليما وأن نبحث بحثا منتجا صحيحا، فلا بد أن نتخلص من هذه الأخطاء والأوهام الباطلة التي تحول دون سلامة التفكير. So Francis Bacon wanted to give a new method and a new way for human intellect to use, for man to use in its observation and experimentation. But as you know, there is an old method that is useless and unproductive and unfruitful. So Francis Bacon wanted to uproot, he wanted to demolish, he wanted to destroy the old foundation first before he can build in its place his own new building and development. So by this, in order to do that, in order to destroy the old, useless, unfruitful foundation, he carried out Tathirul Unkul, the the overall cleanliness, cleansing and purification of the Ukulul Insani from all the pollutions of racism and stagnancy. So he says, okay, definitely, he says, فَإِنْ أَرَدْنَا أَن نُفَكِّرَ تَفْكِيرًا سَلِيمًا وأن نبحث بحثا منتجا صحيحا فلا بد أن نتخلص من هذه الأخطاء والأوهام الباطلة التي تحول دون سلامة التفكير. So this statement, as we mentioned in Mondays and Wednesdays class, is very, very important. This statement is very, very important. The statement from فَإِنْ أَرَدْنَا أَن نُفَكِّرَ تَفْكِيرًا سَلِيمًا until Tahulu duna salamati tafkir. So this statement and phrase is very, very, very important. So you will take care of it because this is the statement, the foundation upon which the other studies of Francis Bacon is based on. Okay, and for any students of philosophy, particularly those studying Francis Bacon's new establishment of philosophy, they must be able to analyze this statement perfectly well. Okay, so he says, فَإِنْ أَرَدْنَا أَن نُفَكِّرَ تَفْكِيرًا سَلِيمًا. If we really want to think properly, if we want to be able to think properly, وَأَن نَبْحَثَ بَحْثًا مُنْتِجًا صَحِيحًا, and if we want to carry out a fruitful and successful research, okay, to a logical conclusion, فَلَا بُدَّ أَن نَتَخَلَّص مِنْ هَذِهِ الْأَخْطَاءِ وَالْأَوْهَامِ الْبَاطِلَةِ الْأَرْبَعَةِ التالي. It says we have to be free. We have to free ourselves. Okay, we have to prevent ourselves from the following mistakes and errors. Okay, that avoids or prevents us from thinking well or thinking properly. So now, what are the akhta' wal awham al batila that he mentioned just earlier? So that is the next point we are going to be talking about. So by this, to لهدم البناء القديمة الباطلة, so Amida Francis Bacon إلى إلى هدم الأوهام الأربعة التي تسد دون سلامة التفكير والبحث. So in order to perfectly demolish the old method that was unproductive and unfruitful, so Francis Bacon wants to clarify what are those wrong foundations, what are those errors, what lead to those errors and mistakes that we make in our research. So in explanation of that, he has four basic uh, explanations. So these four basic explanations, or the features or the factors responsible for the lack of successful examination and observation and experimentation. So he explains them in terms of الأوهام أو الأخطاء الباطلة الأربعة, the four deities or the four idols or the four errors of the four mistakes that we make in our research. So إن شئت فقل الأوهام وإن شئت فقل الأفكار وإن شئت فقل الأخطاء وإن شئت فقل الأوثان. All are equally translated the same way. Okay, so you can call it al-awthan al-arba'a, the four idols, al-awham al-arba'a, the four perceptions, the four insinuations, al-akhta al-arba'a, the four errors, okay, whichever you call it, or the four deities, whichever you call it. But Francis Bacon uses idol here. Okay, he calls it the four idols. So now, what are the four idols? We are going to read again. For those of you who are just joining us, um, I see brother Ahmed, Salwan, and Aimi, Ibrahim, and sister Nur Auni. So we are on page 61 now, and we are dealing with Al-Awham Al-Arba'a, so which are the four idols. So we are reading from the last part of page 62. يريد بيكون بادئ بدء أن يسجل عوامل الخطأ وأسباب الزلل قبل أن يمضي في رسم خطته الجديدة، أو قبل أن يمضي برسم خطته الجديدة، وهو يحصرها في مجموعات أربع يطلق عليها هذه الأسماء. So Francis Bacon, Badi'ul Badi'i, from the beginning, okay, from the start, okay, he wants to explain to us the factors responsible for our mistakes and the reason why we get astray in our research or in our examination. So he wants to clarify that before continuing his Khutot al-Jadida, his new steps or his new foundation. So he combines all these together in Majmu'atin Arba, in a group of four. So he calls them the following name. Number one, Awhamul Jins. Number two, Awhamul Kahfi. Number three, Awhamul Suk. Number four, Awhamul Masrah. Okay, so we are going to explain briefly each of these Awham, but we have the detailed explanation on page 63 to page 68 or 69. So we Awhamul Jins here, the completion is Awham al Jins al Insani. So the idol that is attributed to human race. That is why he calls it idols of the race. As idol of the race, not particular one race, it is human race. Okay, idols of the human race. Okay, you can add al-insi or hamul jins al-insani. So the idols attributed to human race. So which means everybody, everyone, in as much as you are bearing al-insan, you have this al-wahmu, or al-khata'u, or al-wathan. So it is general. So we call this one general human idols. So the second one is al-hamul kahf, the idols of the cave. Okay, why does he use al-kahf here? Al-kahf is a hollow place in between two mountains. Okay, a space in between in between two mountains that is covered by two mountains. Okay, so that is a cave. Okay, so a cave here, this is just a symbol. It is not literally the cave that we know. The cave here is a symbol of human chest. So if you notice, if you have studied human chest, it is situated in between two mountains. Okay, the right side and the left side, and inside that you have all the lungs and all the other the bronchi and all those parts of the the bronchial system. So by this, uh, we can rephrase that. We can actually rephrase that number two to be أوهام الشخصية أو الأوهام الفردية. Okay, individual idols or personal idols or personalistic idols. Okay, or mistakes. So this is attributed to each individual, and because we have individual characteristics that are different from one individual to the other, so this alhamothania is different. It differs from one person to the other. We do not have There cannot be two persons who have exactly the same uh, idol. Okay, so the same mistake. So each individual has its own. That is why we call it al al-awham al-kahfi al-shaksi al-fardi, individual idols or individual mistake or individual error. Everyone has his own. Okay, so we are going to explain that in detail on the coming pages. Okay, so just take it as, so the first one is general to human race. The second one is personalistic to each individual of human race. Then number three, we are now on page 63 for those who are just joining us. Sister Sharifa Athera, Sister Nur Zaina, and the others who are just joining us. We are now on page 63. Al-Ham Souk. So the idols of the market. Idols of the market, uh, you can also call this one idol of the business. So in class, we refer to it as Al-Ham Al-Fanni. Al-Fanni, that is professional idol. Why do we call it professional idol? Because it is attributed to individuals' profession, individuals' job, individuals' work. So whereby everyone would like to defend his own profession as much as he could, to make sure or to think or to make people believe that his profession is what is better than the other profession. And also, religious discussion also falls under this category number three. Okay, when we are in interfaith dialogue or discussion or argument of something of that nature, so we tend to want to defend our religion with with every possible evidences and proofs that we have under our control. So a Muslim, we base his evidence on inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam faman ibtagha ghayra al-Islam dinan falan yuqbala minhu, and so on and so forth. And a Christian, we want to say, for the Lord so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall have eternal life and shall not perish, and so on and so forth. Hindu will also bring their own evidence to prove that they are the best. Buddhists will also, the Sikhs also will bring their own evidence. Okay, the Quran says, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا, and everybody will just try to. So this is what we call professional idol. Awham Asuk, okay, or Awham Al Fanni, okay. So the professional idol, the market idol, the job idol, the discipline idol, the working idol, and so on. So this also differ from one profession to the other, from one level of job to the other. Okay, the last one is Awhamul Masrah, Awhamul Masrahiyya. So Francis Bacon calls it the idols of the theater. Theater, you know what is theater? The place where you go to watch film or movie live and so on and so forth. So by this, why does he call it Alhamul Masra? We explained in the class. So we can also call it dramatic idols or idols of the drama, dramatic idols. So because when you are watching a movie or you are watching a video or a clip, So that the ideas and the characters in the movie and the video, they try to monopolize your ideas and view, bringing you into their own passion and emotion. So by this is a borrowed idea that you get from anyone, from any person, or from any place without clear examination before you try to apply it to your daily life. So we can call it a borrowed idea, or a borrowed idol, or a borrowed mistake. Example of this we are going to give, but before we go on the reading, so when, for example, there are two friends, the clear example that we gave in the class, there are two friends. One of them like uh, uh, a purple color. Let's say one of them like purple color, and the other friend is her mother could only avoid to buy her a green color cloth, and that green colored cloth is actually a beautiful cloth and a well designed and fashioned cloth. But basically, because her friend says he does not like green color cloth, so she goes back to her mother and say, "Ma, I think I don't like this cloth." That is a lie. She likes the clothes, but she doesn't want to infuriate her friend. She wants to please her friend, makes her friend happy at the expense of her own mother's sadness or unhappiness. So, by sacrificing your own wish and desire for another person's wish and desire, you are engaged in this kind of awham al-masra, because you are borrowing somebody's idea, living and killing your own idea. So, these are the four idols, errors, mistakes, uh, deities that Francis Bacon wished to demolish before establishing a concrete base for his new foundation. Now we are going to explain each of these four ideas one by one. Number one, okay, for those who are just joining us, we are on page 63. النقطة الأولى: ويريد بأوهام الجنس تلك الأخطار، أخطار الأفكار، أوكي، التي غرست في طبائع البشر بصفة عامة. So what Francis Bacon means by أوهام الجنس, the idols of the human race, is those thoughts, those perceptions that were naturally imbued into humans' nature. And this is general to everybody, everyone, every human race. It is not limited to a particular race without the other. فقد يزعم الإنسان باطلا أنه مقياس الحقائق. So, باطلا, erroneously, by mistake, or by insinuation, human being tends to believe that they are the measure of all the truths. They are the owner of all the truths. They have under their control all the facts. بما يملك من إدراك حسي وإدراك عقلي. Basically, because human being perceives himself as possessing sense perception and mental perception. Okay, and he thinks that no other creature has these two basic perceptions, and due to that, man naturally considers himself the leader of the creation. والواقع أن ما يدركه الإنسان بعقله وحواسه ليس إلا صورة لنفسه أكثر منها تصويرا للكون الخارجي. Okay, so in reality, what man thinks that he know rationally and through his senses is nothing but the photocopy of the original reality itself. فليس العقل كالمرآة الصافية التي تعكس صور أشياء كما هي تماما. So we should not take human mind as a mirror. Okay, what type of mirror? Al-Mir'at as-Sofia, a plain mirror. We should not think that human's mind is a plain mirror that reflects the exact picture of what is in front of what stands in front of it. Okay, here we are going to explain two types of mirror. One is plane mirror and the other one is concave mirror. Okay, a plane mirror, when you put anything in front of a plane mirror, it gives you the exact picture, the exact status, the exact shape of that thing without cheating anything, without adding anything, without any reduction, without any increment. So, and another mirror is a mirror that when you stand in front of it or you place anything in front of it, so the mirror distorts, that is, pollutes the shape of the object in front of it by adding its own shape to that. For example, when you have a thin object in front of the concave mirror, so it produces that picture in a fat manner. So if something is fat, it makes it thinner. Something is short, it makes it taller. Something is tall, and then it makes it shorter. So by this, Francis Bacon says we should not regard our mind or our intellect or rationality as a plain mirror that reflects a correct picture of that which stands in front of it. So, but rather, it should be taken it should be taken كالمرآة الملتوية التي تمزج صورة نفسها بصورة الأشياء التي تصدرها فتصيبها بالفساد والتشويه. Okay, so by this ومن أخطاء العقل البشري, so one of the human errors or human mistakes التي جبل عليها, that is imbued to all human beings, is ميله أن يفرد في الأشياء درجة من النظام والإطراد أعظم مما هي في الواقع. Okay, the inclination of human being to assume that things are actually more real and bigger than the way they really are in reality. Example of that, we are going to give an example. مثال ذلك أن الإنسان لا يكاد يرى الكواكب تعود فتبدأ سيرها من حيث انتهت حتى يفرض أن أفلاكها دوائر كاملة وأنها تسير سيرا منتظما. Okay, we are going to give a very simple example of the rising and setting of the sun, or rising and setting of the stars. Okay, so when we tend to believe that, so the sun rises at a point and sets at the same point in the night. For example, when the sun starts rotating in the morning, so we say it is daylight. And when it goes down, round back to the same point where it started from, we said it is night. So now, that is an opinion that is generated generally and believed by all human beings, that the sun rises from one point and sets at the same point. But here, the problem here is that has there ever been someone who have traveled to the sun to see the point where it rises from and examine that the same point is the point where it sets at in the night, at the end of the day. There has not been anyone who have been able to examine that. Number one, because the surface of the sun is inexplorable. It is too hot to be explored. Okay, so who will go to the point where the sun starts and where the sun stops or sets? Okay, so we have not been able to ascertain that, to verify that true, but we believe in it, that the sun rises and sets at the same point, okay, every day and every night. So that is one of the what of the human race mistakes and errors that we all, it is general to everyone. It is not limited to one race without the other. Another example of أخطاء العقل المطبوعة فيه أنه إذا سلم بصحة قضية ما، okay, فإنه يحاول أن يرغم كل شيء آخر أن ينهض دليلا على صحة قضيته تلك. Okay, another example of mistake, human mistake or human racial mistake is that when man believes in the authenticity of a case, when we believe in a case or in a certain or a particular situation, okay, whether that situation is right or it is verifiable or not, or it is observable or not observable, so we tend to yuhawilu an yuraghima kulla shay'in akhar. We tend to sacrifice any other thing we would want, we would try to sacrifice any other thing in order to establish the facts or the proof or the evidence that that thing that we believe in its own authenticity and originality is true. فإن صادفه من الأمثلة الكثيرة, even if we have many other examples that shows that it is not true. Okay, فإنه إما أن يهملها أو يصغر من شأنها أو يرفضها في تعصب ذميم. Okay, so we would rather want to sacrifice any other reason or evidence or proof in order to establish our own fact. Okay, example, those adherents of Trinity. So there is nothing you can say to them. They believe Trinity is Trinity, three in one, and one equals to three. Okay, so there is nothing you can tell them. They will still go on arguing, although blindly, that it is they are on the right path. فأحون على نفس الإنسان رفض الحق من نبذ قضية ركن إلى صحتها واعتقد بسلامتها زمنا. So it is simple for everyone to reject any truth, okay, any the truth of any other case that he does not approve, and he does not trust in. Okay, so وهكذا يسارع الناس إلى ملاحظة الأمثلة والحوادث. So similarly, people tend to hurry into observation of samples and some incidents التي تؤيد آراءهم وعقائدهم, that supports their views and their beliefs. ويحملون أو يتجاهلون كل دليل آخر ينحد على بطلان تلك الآراء والمعتقدات, and they ignore all other evidences and proofs that shows the mistakes of their views and their opinions. فخليق بالإنسان أن يفكر فيما يؤيد رأيه وفيما يعارضه على السواهي حتى يخلص إلى الحق. So it is natural to human being to think about every way or all possible means to support his opinion, okay, uh, and to disprove the opinion of others at the same time until he achieves or acquires what he assumes to be the truth. ويسوق بيكون مثلا على ذلك قصة رجل أنكر تأثير نذور فسيق إلى معبد وعرضت عليه عشرات من اللوحات التي علقها من أنجاهم الله من الغرق استجابة لدعائهم ونذورهم، ثم سهل ألا يعترف بعد هذه الأمثلة كلها بنفع النذور وفائدة دعاء فأجابهم قائلا: ولكن أين الصور الذين أغرقوا في اليم رغم ما نذروا وما دعوا. Okay, so in order, Francis Bacon gives another example to explain this human race idols. So the example that he gives here is the example of a man. Example of a man who does not believe in fulfilling promises, and he also does not believe in prayers. Okay, we repeat again. Francis Bacon gives an example to illustrate the human race. He gives example of a man. Okay, we can call him a mulhid, an atheist, who doesn't trust the fulfillment of promises, and he also doesn't believe in the effectiveness of prayer. So, because of his lack of belief, and they want to make him believe. Okay, they want to prove to him, they want to convince him that it is actually good to fulfill one's promise, and it is actually good to rely on praying to God. So, in order to convince him, yani they took him, fasiko, they took him to a temple, Ma'badin. They took him to a temple or synagogue, you can say a church also, okay? So they took him to a temple, and inside that temple, there are scores of picture or present or gifts that were hung on the wall. And these presents, pictures, and gifts were brought by many people in appreciation of God, okay, answering their prayer, and they brought those gifts in fulfillment of their promise to God. A good example of that are those who were on traveling. When they were on traveling, the traveling is on the sea, and they were at the middle of the sea of the sea when there was a storm, a very strong storm or wave disturbing the ship or the boat. And they prayed to God fervently, seriously, and they promised God that لَإِنْ أَنْجَيْتَنَا مِنْ هَذَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ, something of that nature. If you save us, if you deliver us from this danger, we are going to be grateful. We are going to appreciate you. Some of them promise, I'm going to build a house for God. Some of them promise, I'm going to buy a car for the church. Some of them promise, I'm going to build the old temple. Some of them promise, I'm going to give poor food. Some of them, everybody made their own promises, and at the same time praying to God. So at the end of the day, God answered their prayers. He saved them from this calamity, from the storm. They arrived at their destination peacefully, safely, and in appreciation of God's answering their prayer and in fulfillment of their promises. So each one of them took his own gift to the temple. Okay, so there are many of that, and they took this artist man to that temple to show him that. So these are the example of people who have prayed to God, and God have answered their prayers, and they came in appreciation to their what of their to God, and fulfilling their promises to God. So by this, so then they asked him a very simple question. The simple question that they asked him after that is that ألا يعترف بعد هذه الأمثلة كلها بنفع النذور وفائدة الدعاء. So so still you have seen all this بعد هذه الأمثلة كله, you have seen all these samples, the gifts that everybody gave in appreciation to God and in fulfillment of their promises. So after seeing all this, do you still not believe in the efficacy, in the in the profits, in the benefit of promising and in prayer to God? Don't you still believe? So, but this man atheist, he asked them, he responded, he said, okay, fine, I have seen all this. These are all the gifts and the pictures of everyone that prayed to God, and God answered their prayer and they came to fulfill their promise. But I have one more question. The question that I have is that you have not shown me. Okay, ولكن أين صور أولئك الذين أغرقوا في اليم رغم ما نذروا وما دعوا. Okay, but you have not shown me a single picture of those who were perished or destroyed in the storm, despite the fact that they prayed to God and they promised God, they made promise to God. But despite the fact that they prayed, they promised God, they were still perished and destroyed in the water, in the storm. You didn't show me any example of those. So if you show me the example of those and the gift that they brought to God, I may actually consider my believing that promises are good and prayers are effective. So this is example of all human beings. So whatever evidence you provide, they still will not let go their primitive racial belief. Okay, so by this, فلا يكفي عند بيكون أن تعتمد على الأمثلة المؤيدة فقط. So to Francis Bacon, it is not enough to rely on a supportive evidence or samples، بل لا بد أن تفكر في كل موضوع من الجانب الآخر لترى هل هناك ما يقوده ويهدمه. Okay, rather you have to check all other avenues from other aspects to see whether there is something, there is another evidence or reason that can destroy the evidence that you have. وهنا يتقدم بيكون إلى الناس عامة وطلاب العلم خاصة بهذه النصيحة. Okay, so here Francis Bacon advises people generally and students of philosophy specifically. What is the advice that he gives? Here it is. He says, ليأخذ كل طالب لعلم الطبيعة بهذه القاعدة. All students of natural sciences, all students of natural philosophy should take note of this rule. What is the rule? وهي, he says, the rule is that إن كل شيء يتعلق به العقل ويصر العقل عليه ويطمئن إليه العقل ينبغي أن يوضع موضع الشك. Again, he says, إن كل شيء يتعلق به العقل ويصر عليه ويطمئن إليه ينبغي أن يوضع موضع الشك. Everything, regardless of whatever it is, everything that the mind or the rationality is inclined to and it is in love with and is in agreement with, this thing must be subjected to skepticism, meaning to say we have to study that thing carefully. An explanation of this is if your mind is in love with something, is inclined to a particular thing, you have to be very careful. You have to study that particular thing attentively to see whether there are some danger in it or not. ولا يجوز أن نسمح للعقل بأن يثب أو يطير من الحقائق الجزئية إلى القضايا العامة الشاملة. لا ينبغي أن نمد العقل بالأجنحة، بل الأولى أن نثقله بالأغلال حتى نحول بينه وبين القفز والطيران. Okay, he says, it is not good, okay, it is not good to allow our mind to fly or to hop, H-O-P, to hop like frog. We should not allow our rationality to hop like frog or to fly to fly like birds away from partial truth to a general and universal conclusion or case. So it is not right, it is not accurate that we give our minds a feather like birds, that we help it or allow it to fly. Okay, rather, we should weigh down our mind. We should emburden our mind with a lot of responsibilities so that we would prevent it from al-kofzi wa toiran, from hopping, from jumping and flying at will, the way it wants. Meaning to say, we should not set our rationality free, okay, to do whatever it wants or it likes. So we should keep it under check and balancing. So that is basically what Francis Bacon is talking about. So that is the explanation of the Al-Awham Al-Ula. So according to Francis Bacon. So the next is Al-Wahmu Al-Thaniya. Okay, so we are going to, because it is almost 1 hour that we have been recording on the Facebook channel. So we are going to stop the recording now, and we are going to stop the online session also. So, but we will start immediately with the next session from الطائفة الثانية إن شاء الله. So نكتفي بهذا الآن حتى until we come to the next session in the next few minutes بإذن الله. So please stay tuned. We are going to come back online soon.